Hello and welcome to That's Mental TV with me, Christine Charles, and Rees Finlay in the house. Hey, Rees.
Hey, thank you for having me back.
Well, it's good to have you on the show. Thank you for agreeing to be on the show. I know you've got another episode coming up with us after this as well. But today we're talking about identity, aren't we? The last time you talked about your mental health and how you maintain it on a daily basis with the condition that you have. So I am going to hand over to you. Tell our viewers who don't know who you are, why you raise awareness, what you're about, and then we can dive straight into identity.
Yeah, so my name is Rees. I'm an illustrator and content creator from Coventry. So I've started off in small press comic books. From there, that opened doors to work for official artwork for stuff like Star Wars and Stranger Things. And then 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with autism following a huge mental health crisis. From there, that then inspired me to write a graphic novel about the autism diagnosis. And from there, I've just kind of opened a lot of doors for myself to, one, spread the word about autism, and two, about mental health and how those two can be quite married a lot of the time. And identity as well, that's a huge part of, being diagnosed with autism. And, I've been thinking about it a lot since we decided this was the topic we were going to do. And at first I thought, identity, it means everything to everyone. But is that true? I mean, if you guys want to put in the comments, how much your identity means to you and how much you think it should mean to someone, I'd be really keen to hear that, because ever since I got that autism diagnosis, my identity changed completely. Before that, I was Rees Finlay, the class clown, a little bit weird, but in a cool way. And once you get diagnosed, especially with something like autism, it's such a loaded word. It's so many stigmas, and people already have an idea of what autism is in their heads.
Mm.
You're like their child, or you're like Rain Man from the films. The problem is, it's such a broad condition that it affects everyone so differently. It's then hard to work out what's a correct identity to build around that.
Mm.
Because post-diagnosis, I was completely lost with it all. I was very emotionally hurt by it all. As great as a diagnosis is, and I'd recommend it to anyone who thinks they might need one, you do also have to do a lot of working out about who you are, who you were, and who you're going to be. And that's a really hard thing to come to terms with. It's almost like a grieving process, and you're going through all those stages of grief, mourning the person you used to be, knowing that the idea of a normal life is going to be a bit more difficult now, and just complete reinvention of yourself.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm going to pause you there. What is identity? If anyone's watching this right now and going, well, it's very well that you're talking about identity, but what is it? What is identity?
Yeah, I probably should have covered that first, shouldn't I? Okay. It's who you are, and the thing is, there's a duality to it. There's two identities. There's who you are inside, and there's who the world interprets you as. Deep. Sometimes those things are very, very similar.
Yeah.
And you can actually be quite authentic and true to yourself, or you can be interpreted as how you actually are, which is great. But sometimes there's a disconnect with that. And, having a neurological condition, struggling with certain social communications, certain social cues, that can make that a lot more difficult. And sometimes the person I am inside isn't always being reflected by the person I am outside. So it's hard to find that balance of communicating and helping people understand who you are, as well as knowing a little bit it's out of your control, and you've just got to hope for the best on that front. But I don't know. I'm going through a tricky time at the moment where I think I'm kind of transitioning away from mourning and coming to terms with autism diagnosis, and kind of starting this new chapter of my life where my identity is a bit more broad and not just defined by the autism. Because
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Rees. Most people are in transition. Some know it and some don't.
Massively.
Yeah, and you're a young man who is very self-aware. You're very conscious of your actions, of who you are, how your actions affect those around you and yourself. But not everybody has that awareness for various reasons. So transition. Talk to us a little bit about transition. You've described who your identity was before, class clown. Cool. You were cool in a weird way.
If I do say so myself.
Where are you now in that transition?
I think I'm in quite a messy divorce with a lot of the autism stuff. Because the thing, when you first get diagnosed, what everyone will come up to you and say is, don't let your autism define you. And I get it, I get the sentiment, but it just doesn't work, because the condition influences everything. And then you step into this online culture and it's all it is. It's everything about you. Every fiber of your being is defined by that. And I don't know how comfortable I am with that personally. If other people want to do that, power to you. But personally, I think it's quite restrictive to me to be completely defined by my disability. So I do want to be more defined by my comic work or, my public speaking and stuff like that. So identity is always fluid. We change so much. Yeah. We can look back on our Facebooks 4 years ago and you don't recognize that person.
Yeah.
And so it's important not to think that identity is some solid thing that we have to adhere to. We're all capable of change. We're all capable of growth, be that positive or negative. But typically it seems to be positive. I think most people are self-aware enough to be able to analyze that. And I don't know, if people aren't capable of that, is that a conscious decision? I'd be quite keen to hear how people feel about that. I mean, maybe some people's identities aren't that important, so they don't stress about it too much and they're quite comfortable in their own skin. But I'm just this big existential nightmare, constantly questioning my own existence and my place in it all. So yeah, I think
you've hit another nail on the head. Purpose. People are looking for purpose and identity. Who am I and why am I here? And I mean, I've been life coaching for over a decade, and that question was raised in my training in my early days of life in terms of, as a life coach, these are the most of the roots of people's reasons for life coach when they come to a life coach, and not just life coaching but other therapies as well. And it's still 10 plus years on, it's the same number one thing people are asking: who am I? What's my purpose? But what I want to ask you is quite a deep question. You ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Deep breath. So how do you think that identity affects a person's mental health? How's it affected yours?
I think it's tied to self-esteem a lot. So it's the sense of rejection and worthlessness that can come with certain negative traits and incidents that tie into your identity. That's when it gets vulnerable. And, we live in this age of social media. Get ready, guys, I'm doing a rant about social media again, where our identities are so public, they're so out there. Yeah. And these are the identities we've curated. This is how we want people to see us.
Right.
And we're putting ourselves out there for the world to see and the world to judge. And that's incredibly hard when you feel the rejection from that. And I think everyone's felt it at some point to some extent, is that, people don't like me and that hurts. And you've got to kind of work through that and appreciate what a diverse world we live in, and not everyone's going to be to everyone's liking. And it's quite a hard thing to come to terms with, especially, we're all the main character in our own stories. So to suddenly have this wake up call that we're not God. So we shouldn't really get too absorbed in ourselves, and our identity should also coincide with those around us and our loved ones, and we should work on it. So if I don't want to stagnate and just be kind of arrogant in what I am, I'm very much open to learning and growth and change. And if I was that set in my ways, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't even be drawing comics or stuff. I'd probably be stuck in Tesco stacking shelves. I wouldn't have got the autism diagnosis, so I would have been struggling through life massively with my mental health. So it's important to know when to change, when to grow, and know that you're allowed to change your mind. I think, especially in this modern age, people feel like they can't change their minds and they have to be so resolute in their beliefs that they can't have that flexibility to go, oh, I was wrong. I looked at this in the wrong way. I misinterpreted something.
Yeah.
we're wrong, and changing views and growing as a result.
And by the way, if you are stacking shelves in Tesco or any supermarket, that's okay. I've
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. I worked in retail for many years, and I very much miss those days. But this is the thing, that was the dream life I would have, and it's kind of scary. I say it, if you like, when my mental health gets bad, and when I start to despise having autism, my dream life is, working in a nice little 9 to 5 like that, nice little bit of security, having a nice little family to go home to, just this normal, quiet life. As great as it is that the autism has opened up doors to do stuff like this, to do stuff like the book, incredible.
Yeah.
Chasing the dream. But in those darker hours, I would trade it all in for normality. And that's how fluid my identity is.
Yeah. And normality for us all means different things, but the thing that you've hit the nail on the head, should I say, is a peace. You've got to come to peace with who you are, where you're at, and human beings by nature don't like change. I thought I loved change, but I've recently discovered actually I do struggle with change, especially in social settings because I'm an introvert. So it's coming to peace with that. Okay, there's going to be a settling in period for me, but once I'm through that, it's all good. And it's just coming to peace with yourself, and your flaws, because none of us are perfect. Praying helps massively, I find. What helps you in your days where you're struggling with the whole transition and identity? What do you do, and what would you recommend to our viewers?
I guess it's a case of self-love and self. I always used to hate the idea of self-love and self-care. It sounded so cheesy, but then I did it. I was it's really that simple. It's that nice, and it's little reminders. I mean, I've got a newspaper article up there from when I was featured for doing my book, and it's important to hold on to stuff like that because my confidence and self-esteem can just hit rock bottom. I can feel completely worthless.
Yeah.
Everyone in the world is better than me. I am worthless. I do not deserve my place at the table. And it's just important to go, oh no, you've done this, this, and this. You've achieved things. And I always lose sight of that because everything I've wanted to do in life, I've been able to do within reason, within the limits of my disability. So when we first spoke on your radio show in October, was it, or November? I was quite vocal about how I really wanted to improve workplaces for autistic people or just any disabled people in general. And in February, I was lucky enough to have that chance. I was able to be part of the panel that was introducing a whole new training module for council workers. So everyone working in the council is going to get training on autism and neurodiversity. Everyone, from the caretaker to the people at the top, all getting this really intense, thank you, this really intense, detailed training that's up to date. It's consulted autistic people. Incredible. And I'm so glad that I've been able to make the change I set out to make rather than just stagnate or be bitter or angry and just get on a soapbox and rant. The fact that I could actually make a difference, it meant so much to me. So hold on to stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think there's a thing going around on Instagram at the moment, you list 3 things that are positive about your day.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Just it's about holding on to that sort of thing and not getting consumed by the negativity.
Yeah, and get around the right people as well, you've got to have the right people around you. If you've got negative people when you're in a vulnerable place, when you're in a place of transition, it's going to tip the balance, right? And if you've got positive peers around you and mentors, then there's a good chance you're going to get through it, even through the bumps, And the best way when you're going through a dark day is to be kind to somebody else. Do it on purpose. Do it on purpose.
In secret as well, that's a really exciting thing. If I talk about it now, that would kind of defeat the point, but there's something great about, if, don't get me wrong, you can do good things and then tell people or take a photo on Instagram and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that to an extent, but if you do it in private, it's like this. You've got all these dark secrets, but they're all really positive. There's something kind of nice about that.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people I find on my social media sites are looking for validation. Sometimes I do. I fall into that trap and have to go away and really do some soul searching and all the rest of it. Why did I do that? What's at the root of this? Where's the insecurity coming from? And it's that whole validation piece. And last night I was thinking about our interview and what we're going to be talking about. And I was praying, and it was like, most people, I'd actually go out on a limb and say everybody is searching for love. They just want to be loved. And how they express that is in different ways. Some people are aggressive, some people are passive aggressive, some people put things on social media for validation. But at the root of it is absolute love. That's what people want and they need. And so if we can start from a place of love, what what is missing in my life right now that is going to bring me peace, you know? I think that's a great place to start. And you've started from that
Absolutely.
place as well as many times.
Yeah, and it's got to come from within as well. I mean, especially now where we are so cut off from the world. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I hugged someone. So it's about finding it within yourself, so then you can then put it out into the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah. Rees, it's been amazing chatting to you. We're going to be back talking about how we can learn from the autism community. Now, this is key, absolute key, and it's not been done before, not to my knowledge anyway. I don't know if anybody's out there, but yeah, we're going to be back. Any final words around identity and transition?
I need to transition to turn my phone off. You probably saw me throw it across the room earlier because it's making noises. But it is really important to everyone. And, you know, if you choose to build this strong identity around certain things, make sure it's coming from a place of positivity. Because if you build it on negative ground and you're angry and hurt and vitriolic, you're not helping anyone, you know, if you're trying to fight for a cause or anything, and you're not going to help yourself. The impact it will take on your mental health and your physical health as well. Mental health and physical health are very connected, and it's very important to be aware of that, because I once got shingles and it is horrible and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
Yeah. So there you have it. There you go. Snapshot of identity. We could go on all day talking about identity. So many facets to identity, self-awareness and all the rest of it. But we want to just leave you with some positivity and encouragement. Don't fall into the trap of what everybody else is doing out there, especially on social media. Be at peace with yourself. Okay, that's mental TV for now. We're coming back with Rees Finlay talking all about autism and how we can learn from the autism community.
Thank you so much.